started, I was just telling Bobby, put it in the bag, and I was like, I'm like tripping because I grew up with you. You know what I mean? I'm the old head in the group, and how we used to like when Death Certificate came out, we were like just like running to the store to get the cassette to play in the tape deck on the way back to college, and I was like, oh my gosh! So I'm honored to be here and a little nervous.
That's all good. It's all love. It's all good.
This is intimate, so I'm glad that we were selected and can do this all together with all three of you for sure.
Yeah, this is dope.
So we can get started, I guess. We only have limited time. So my first question is for you, Ice Cube. When filming the first Barbershop movie, did you ever think that it was going to grow into the franchise that it is today?
You always hope. You always hope you do a movie that people dig, and you come up with characters that people want to see again. And I knew we had a great movie. I knew we had a unique movie because rarely do you get a chance to have a movie that's dealing with real topics and real people that's in that we hear about every day on the news, but also can wrap it in a cool, dramatic story into a movie, and it's not taking you out of the movie, that you're still locked into the movie. So I just knew we had something that was unique, and as long as we keep living, there's gonna be new people in the news acting a fool, and we knew we could come back in the barbershop and speak on it. Our job with the franchise is to figure out what else. What else is it past talking about Obama and Kanye or whatever. What else is there to talk about in the world, and what else does the movie have to be? And that's the hardest part, is figuring out what each movie should be other than jokes about people.
Yeah. All right, I guess I'll jump in next. Again, I'm Bobby Penn with thebobbypen.com. Cedric, my question is for you. One of my notes that I wrote down, your jabs were sharp, funny, and always on time. How much of that was scripted and how much was sort of ad-lib?
Eddie fast.
Eddie pretty fast, man. It's a character that I really enjoy doing. So a lot of it is, it was a lot of written stuff there, and then but I do get a lot of freedom as this character. The director, Cube, everybody who's the writers, everybody trusts my sense of humor, and especially what I do with this character. So, I mean, it was a lot of things that was necessary to be said, that were written, and then there were things that I just fire them off. I'd call it Rain Man, and I don't even know I said it. Like, as Eddie, I don't even know half the stuff I said. They'll come back after we be like, do that again. I'd be like, well, I don't even know what I did. I don't know to tell you what that was.
Nice.
Yeah.
So my question is for you, Regina. After reading the script and knowing about the whole, the legend of the Barbershop movies, what was it so important for you to be a part of this film, and what topic? Because you all covered beautifully, by the way, a lot of topics, from stuff that my 18-year-old daughter can relate to what me and my girlfriends talk about. But what resonated with you the most? What topic resonated with you the most?
Gosh, well, they all, every topic in the movie really, really, resonated with me. I think as a woman, and from the female point of view, of the shop, I think it was important that we talk about women and their value system within themselves, and I thought it was, important to address without judging, but certainly wanting young girls to realize we're much more than our physical bodies, that we are that our value is much larger than that, and having young women really walk with that and addressing it humorously, with the truth of how amazing teachers are, and where our society is putting their values, and that was probably something I joke about it all the time. I'm like, I'm in the wrong business. I should have been on the pole little bit. I've been making more money.
So my next question is for anyone that wants to answer, while we're on the topic, the movie really tackled so many different issues very concisely but thorough, and a lot more provocatively than it was in the previous Barbershop movies. So I'm assuming this was a conscious, decision. How did that come about?
Well, I think, it seemed like whenever you make a sequel, the second one, sometimes things can get a little out of whack because you're trying to broaden the scope of things, and you're trying to broaden the audience, and you're trying to bring in more people. So you end up doing things that you think are going to achieve that, make the movie feel bigger, and all these kind of things that happens with a sequel. But when you do the third one, you realize, okay, what made the first one special? You know what I mean? The second one, how did the people really accept that one? And then what is our adjustment for the third one to kind of really back to what it was? And that's kind of our, getting Malcolm Lee, who, does amazing movies that people love, and he's great with real stories and comedy mixed in. We thought by having him as the director that he would dig all that stuff out and make sure that these conversations were deeper than the average, or were more explored by more people, or commented on, and just made it a little more rich and not so shallow, I guess.
Okay.
All right, I guess my next question, I know you both are parents, and one of the major themes...
I'm not.
Forgive me.
That's okay. But I have a dog.
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry,
That's like my baby.
Well, I'm a director.
Yes.
So,
But you've been practicing.
Right.
Doing that.
No, but I wanted to ask, one of the common things we saw was parenting and how people's styles can differ. And even though you can try all that you can, sometimes you can't always keep an eye on your child. So what advice, I guess, would you give parents in terms of trying to make sure that their children are staying on the right path, but kind of allowing them, I guess, to make mistakes when...
Keep talking. Keep talking to them. You don't think they want to hear it. They ain't got time to listen. Keep talking.
Amen.
Just keep that mouth running. You know what I mean? When they walking through and giving them game. It's like, because the older they get, the less you see them. They either hanging up in their room. It's like, you decide to come out and see that you have a family here. And all they doing is running to the refrigerator and running back. Anything you've been wanting to say, you got to shoot it at them, because what happens is they pretend like they're not listening. They pretend like they don't care. They pretend like they don't want to hear it. But when they get out in the street and get in that situation, your voice is what they're going to hear. Your voice is going to be the voice of reason when they can't figure out what's going on, or they trying to make a decision. So the less you talk, the more their friends and other people are gonna, kind of be in their head. But the more you stay on them, and no matter how old they are, I got grown kids, I still be chopping it up with them, still be spitting game to them, still be letting them know how I feel about things, and still hold them to a standard, and it works out because, my kids respect me, they listen, they don't always want to hear it, but, they always listen, and so far they've been doing the right thing, so it's worked for me.
And
Well, I was just saying, I think that, I have 3 kids, and you do have to communicate with them quite a bit. You have to, and your kids too, like what Q was saying, they have to earn, you have to earn their respect, and they got to earn yours. And I think, we live in a generation where it's so easy to want to be our kids' friends that we don't parent them long enough and you earn that friendship. Like I remember earning my friendship with my dad after I was grown. We figured out another way to communicate where we now could be friends. He's still my father, but now it's a friendly thing. Like, you know, but you know, he had to be my dad for, you know, for a certain amount of time for me to understand, like, all right, this is my daddy talking to me right now, you know. And I think that, you know, that's important. So when you have kids, you have to be their leader. You have to be someone that is a voice that's in their head that's saying, you know, this is the limitation. These are not the limitations, but this is some a voice of boundary and reason for you, you know. And then know that they're going to experiment, know that they've made mistakes, and then this is when you earn the trust for them to even to tell you things that they wouldn't normally talk about with somebody else, because they will, you know. And so that's what I think is important, that as parents that we have to be able to do that, and not just to our kids, but again, in a community sense, we've definitely gotten away from, you know, making kids responsible for calling, you know, Mr. Ice Cube if he don't want to be called Mr. Jackson, you know what I mean? But respect him as a man, you know what I mean? Like,
I miss such and such.
right?
No
Yeah, but it's like people, these kids walk up and they with you. Like, I'm like, dude, I'm 50. You don't call me Ced, bro. Like, you know, and I mean, and you can see that, you know, it's a whole community of that. So, you know, you're gonna be fighting uphill with your own, you know, little people, because they just don't have no respect for it.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, my favorite scene in the movie was when you came to the park to get Jalen.
Yeah.
And it was just like this understanding within the silence.
Yes.
And that was beautiful.
Yeah.
You know, I'm a parent. I'm going to tell you, I agree and concur with everything you all are saying. And I always tell my daughter some things life's going to have to teach you, but I'm always here.
Right.
So how much of a parallel as Calvin as a parent and you as a parent, how much of a parallel is that? Would you have ran up to your son and would you have reacted differently at the park then?
I mean, you know, I wouldn't have reacted different. You know, because, you know, if he wouldn't have came, I would have went down there and
right.
got him. But you know, I mean, I haven't really put thought into how much am I, you know, like Calvin, because he's a character. But as far as me, I'm present. I'm there, and I'm gonna do whatever it takes to keep him out the streets, keep him on the right path, you know, and you know it's whatever.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Legal or illegal, whatever I need to do to keep them. It's gonna get done. So, you know, hopefully, you know, they take all my life lessons and don't get you know, bitten ass by life too much, you know, because it's ready to bite you if you slip or trip or think you too cool for school. So hopefully they learn it, but you know, I know they got to go through their own bumps and bruises, and you got to allow for that. You know, you can't, you know, just kind of be on this dictator tip.
Yeah.
You know, at a certain age, you gotta, you know, learn how to communicate with your kids, and it might be different ways with different ones. You know, I don't have no favorites, but you know, I deal with them all as individuals, and won't clump them all together. So, you know, you gotta earn those relationships. You know, really earn them. You know, because worst thing in the world is to hear something from, you know, your wife that your son didn't tell you. You know what I mean? It's like, wait a minute. Well, I don't get to know that. What's happening? It's supposed to come to me. So, you know, you got to just have that communication. That's the key. I think that's the key to any relationship.
Yeah.
Anytime two people are dealing with each other, there has to be, you have to work on that relationship. You can't take it for granted.
Even with a dog, I talk to him.
Yeah.
It's true. I talk to my dog, and he understands. And I just want to say, all this good parenting, but Zeus has been home for 10 hours and not pottied. I mean, this dog is
You're an amazing dog mom.
This dog is trained. He doesn't potty, no chewing of shoes. I mean, I put the work in.
You won't give it up for
Parenting. Yeah. So my next question is for you, Regina, and also you, Ice Cube. Both of your characters had very emotional moments throughout the movie, and then a lot of times, either before or right after, there was like a quick humor jab, and you guys didn't flinch, come out of that emotion or anything. How was it doing that, kind of going back and forth between being emotional and being serious, and then being funny shortly after?
You want to go first?
No, you can go.
Well, I think with Calvin, he had a lot on his mind. So I just figured he was a guy who was just wrestling with reality. The thing with his kids, thing with the shop. And some days, I'm pretty sure if you own a shop, you walk in there, everybody laughing and having a good time, and you thinking about the bills, thinking about this. I got time for that. So I just stayed in that mode that, that he was, really, he really had his mind in other places, even though he was participating in the barbershop. So, some of the moments I just felt like, especially when it was more serious, that he wouldn't care about people's jokes or people's, he would just, play it as real as possible.
Yeah.
Sort of mentally check out, maybe.
Yeah, in a way, because he was checking out because he was moving the shop. He was like, yo, I'm about to get up out of here. So he was kind of mentally checking out anyway. So I just wanted to stay in character because with Calvin, he's like the hub in a way, but, the humor doesn't hinge on him as much, So, I always have to really find, where does his temperament fit into this shop and what's going on with him in his real life.
Gotcha.
I think the same thing too. We also spent a lot of time in that shop, so you did feel like you were in a shop and you knew people because we spent a lot of time on the set, in that space. And then, interestingly enough, everybody does have a different relationship to one another in the shop, So I think with Calvin, Angie's, they're friends, but he's also a business partner. So their moments together are different than it's going to be with her stylist, and then it's going to be with, some of the guys like Eddie. And so I just think when it came time for them to have their thing together, it was of a serious nature, and the stuff that was happening became the backdrop, where it wasn't really relevant to that moment, and we just were able to be comfortable in that and kind of create a newer relationship between the two of us.
Gotcha.
And we always when you have great actors and people who have a lot of experience in movies, that sometimes you only have a scene or two to create a history, so you have to make sure that when people see that scene, they understand the history, even if you can't speak it. So it has to be spoken in the way you talk to a person, or just kind of how you interact, to give the audience a sense of, oh, okay, they've been knowing each other a long time, they're friends, and you really have a few moments to try to capture that. And when you're dealing with somebody, as good as Regina, she's always conscious of, are we capturing that moment that we need to capture to show that we, got the shop together and that we're partners. And so, it's like, that's when you know you're doing a good movie, when you have all your actors conscious and contributing and, wanting to make their characters better and, telling the director, no, my character wouldn't do that. Sometimes you got to tell the director, you might know this whole movie better than me, but I know this character better than you now, so you got to let him know, he wouldn't do that, he would do this, and here's why.
I have one more question if I could throw it in.
Me too.
I was really proud to see the men from the shop step up and take action in the community. I feel like a lot of us, and I'll include myself, we're raised without fathers. So definitely when it comes to young men, I think it's kind of hard for them to find their place in society. So what, I guess, advice would you guys give to community leaders, business owners, to males in particular, to step up more and just kind of be that figure for those who may not have that at home?
I believe...
How even important was that scene to the film?
It's very important, but I believe that, our generation is not stepping up at all. My generation is not stepping up like they're supposed to. I think in a lot of ways hip-hop has created these Toys R Us kids. They don't want to grow up, you know what I mean? And at a certain point you got to grow up, you got to step up, and you got to stand up and be a man and take control of your environment. And I just think a lot of us are kind of mesmerized by being young, that young lifestyle, and we don't want to let that go. So when you don't want to let that go, you 40, 50, 60, trying to live like you 20, 18, 19, and that's what has to stop. Not saying that you got to turn into your daddy or your grandfather or whatever, but you do have to turn into a full-grown, serious man. And that's the issue that we have to deal with, we got, back in the day, there was a rite of passage when you turned a certain age, 13. I think we got to have another level, maybe at 35. Say, hey, man, it's grown man time. Can't do that no more. We got to check each other, and I think that's kind of the start of it. We gotta reprogram our thinking, reprogram how we approach things and what we care about. And so, it's a lot of work to be done, but I think that's where it starts. We gotta step up.
Yeah.
One last question.
Okay. The ending of the movie left me hopeful. And just like you were saying, my city's going to be back. I know it's coming back. And then going into this movie, really looking at the issues that you covered, what was one issue that was just in your heart from the start that we have to talk about this? This has to, be communicated to anybody, the audience that's coming to see this movie, that's going to spark the change. Because what you're doing, even with this tour, is to be commended, with going in the community and giving back and setting an example, just as, the Barbershop did. But what was that one issue in your heart from the beginning? It's like, we want to address this.
Oh, it was the trying to keep Jalen out the streets.
Okay.
That was the hook for the movie. That was the reason to do this movie. Okay. But I mean, I love the fact that with the Barbershop, with the movies, that we're giving props to our barbers, beauticians, and people that keep our self-esteem, up, because without these people, a lot of us would have a lot lower self-esteem because we wouldn't be able to look good. And,
y'all didn't see me this morning on that plane with your hair.
She won't be sitting here so confident. So these are important people in our community that hopefully through these movies feel a lot prouder of themselves and what they do than before these movies came out. So, that's the most, because these are unsung heroes. And just like when I did Boys in the Hood, I was like, man, they doing a movie about our neighborhood? That's interesting. That's it was like, yeah, that's movie worthy. Okay. So I didn't think, we was worth it, and it's cool to show barbers and people like that they are worth it. They are movie worthy. What they do is movie worthy.
That kind of goes. That made me think about your initial question. When doing film, you're doing movies. The first Barbershop was a lot like, in my experience, was Car Wash was a generation before. It was a movie that showed our community, a slice of life of things that you see, you visualize it every day, and never knew that it was. It's a story inside there, but. So when we first captured this movie, like, Q was saying, you knew it was special right away because we all knew we were actually telling the story of how it feels to be in the barbershop. And we was like, if this movie come off the way that we doing it, this movie gonna blow because people gonna feel it automatically. And that's like that. And, those are the things that we don't really get, those kind of stories seen a lot. We usually at a family reunion, we've been 12 years a slave and they're gonna be a slave again. There's a cowboy that's gonna save another slave. It's like, there's always these things. But then when you tell a story that's a slice of life of community, that's like, and the people and you run into, you're like, oh, this is dope. This is what I want to see. And we don't get enough of those stories. And that's what I like about this particular, this franchise for sure.